Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us. Tremendous thanks to Axios for convening this distinguished group of speakers to discuss the future of our national security and defense capabilities here in the United States. This conversation is critical, particularly now as the public and private sectors think about the battlefield for supremacy in the new age of technology, data, and automation. My name is Danielle Burr, and I am proud to be the head of public affairs at McKinsey & Company. I'm honored to represent our global brand here today, and I appreciate you for attending today's conversation on this exciting topic. As you may know, McKinsey & Company is a consulting firm committed to helping organizations achieve lasting success. With more than 25 offices in the United States, McKinsey partners with everyone from global institutions to local communities. As partners with our clients in both the public and private sector, we take on the toughest challenges to meet the moment. Through these partnerships, McKinsey has earned the reputation as a trusted partner. Whether it was designing the White House Chief of Staff role in the early 1950s, creating NASA's organizational structure at its conception, or helping improve New York City's emergency response capabilities in the wake of September 11th, McKinsey has been a partner to the American people for more than a century. At McKinsey, we combine bold strategies and transformative technologies to help organizations innovate more sustainably, achieve lasting gains in performance, and build workforces that thrive in this generation and the next. Through our fact-based data and research, we seek to provide better outcomes for those who live and work around the world. We hope you'll enjoy learning more about our insights on the future of defense. We invite you to explore our website through the QR codes that are on the materials found around this really incredible venue. Thank you again to Axios, to our speakers, and to all of our guests. I'd now like to turn it over to Axios publisher, Nick Johnson. Thank you.
Danielle, good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nicholas Johnson. I'm the publisher of Axios. I love our live events. They are the physical manifestation of our journalism. We get to see that all of our readers are real people, and all of you get to see that Colin is not an unmanned, autonomous newsletter writing drone. He's an actual real person. So thank you so much for being here. Also, huge thanks to our partners who make everything we do at Axios possible. So very grateful to McKinsey & Company for making this evening's conversations possible. And very excited to welcome to the stage McKinsey & Company's senior partner, Ryan Brookhart. To the stage. Ryan, welcome to the stage.
Thank you.
You even gave me a tip to say your name,
I know,
loved
exactly.
Can you believe that? Let's start real quick. Give a little bit about your background, your expertise, your role.
Sure. So great to meet everybody. And Ryan Brookhart, I'm a senior partner with our firm, located in our Miami office. Started my career in the Air Force, actually in one of the launch control centers that Undersecretary LaPlante just talked about.
Yeah.
Glad we're modernizing those, by the way, and helped to lead our aerospace and defense practice here in the U.S. We've got about 100 partners that work on that. A variety of topics.
So there's always attempts by tech startups to crack the puzzle of the Pentagon. From your vantage point, what lessons can be learned for the crop coming now to figure that out?
Yeah, so I think there's 3 or 4 things. One of which is this whole concept of we definitely want the innovation amongst the tech startups. However, we also need to be able to deliver, right? And I think when as you think about what's happened over the last 20 years, that ability to not only innovate but also deliver is really important. Speed is incredibly important, but you have to be able to go at the speed of your customer, right? I mean, there are often times when you need to bring the customer along in any business, and particularly when it relates to defense tech as well. I think the third thing is be a good partner. I think we've seen that time and time again, and part of that is being flexible, right? I mean, I think conditions change, contracting mechanisms change, but the ability to kind of be flexible is really important.
Yeah, so okay, you've given a laundry list of, I think, things for tech startups to follow. Are they doing that? How is that playing out? What are you seeing in the real world now?
Well, it's interesting. I think a lot of people think that the kind of defense tech ecosystem we have today is new, right? It's only happened in the last few years. We actually think we're in the third wave, if you will, of a 20-year cycle. And this actually started about in the early 2000s, where a couple of startups came in and found some kind of niche areas kind of outside the core of defense.
Yeah.
And they were able to do a couple of things I talked about, innovate and deliver. Quickly, they were able to provide their solutions in a way that, frankly, the competitors couldn't do. That second wave happened about 10 years ago. And I think, in that instance, you saw the beginnings of much more private capital coming into the space. And I think they saw the success of some of these early players and recognize that if they were able to innovate and deliver and be flexible, they could also be successful. And by the way, the customer also started to contract differently. We saw DoD non-FAR 15, a decade ago was 2/3 of the spend, and today it's only about 1/3. NASA was even further ahead, right? They were about 2/3 or 1/3 about 10 years ago, and they've been even further ahead. So I think the third wave that we're in today, there's about $27 billion of private capital that's come into the defense ecosystem. That's up 8% from last year, but I think the momentum is truly there, where you're going to see even more innovation rewarded by the customer.
In that third wave, what are the emerging what are you most excited about? What are the emerging technologies?
Well, I have a long list of 18 that I'm going to pull out, and we'll go through them all. But so we've actually studied this, and there's a lot of lists out there, right? I think 10, top 10, top 20, et cetera. I think for us, though, what's really important is how the industrial base can attack these tech disruptions. So we think about them in terms of early stage. So this is really hard tech. This is quantum computing, et cetera, where really only the government can sponsor that. This maturing tech, though, is kind of our second bucket. And this is technology that's out there that's we're seeing, but it's not quite defense ready. So this is like quantum sensing, it's small modular reactors, and these type of things. The third one is what we call scaled commercial solutions. And this is where you see AI, et cetera, those types of things where we're doing it at scale in the commercial markets, but it's not yet
translated to the
not yet in the defense markets. And the amount of capital it's going to take, by the way, and transformation, both within the customer as well as in the defense industrial base to do that. And I think Chairman Gallagher talked earlier this morning about talent is going to be really important.
Right. And instead of like gee whiz type things, these are large buckets of technical innovation. I think that
totally.
you're looking at here.
Exactly, and I think the way the industrial base attacks those and who in the industrial base attacks those is a little bit different.
Well, then, but that comes into the next question here. Like, these ideas are great if they're just floating around in the air. How do you deploy them in a way that can be used on the battlefield? Like, how does the industrial base rise and respond to that?
Yeah, it's interesting, and some of this has been written recently in the press. About 40 years ago, we had a very different industrial base, and Undersecretary LaPlante just talked about the different conditions that we had back then. That defense industrial base was very diverse, right? You had a lot of commercial companies that had defense divisions. In the intervening, time, we've come down to these defense specialists, right?
Yeah.
And so, you think about how do we expand that ecosystem? We're still workshopping the name, right? But is it defense industrial base 2.0, or is it a whole of government, a whole of industry type approach? We're trying to figure that out. So if you have any good names, let us know. But I think there is this whole concept of how do you not only leverage those defense specialists, but how do you also, and the defense tech startups that are out there, but how do you bring in the hyperscalers? How do you make defense an attractive place to be for all of those at-scale technologies that we see elsewhere, but not necessarily yet in
Well, you're the consultant, so what's your advice to them? Like, what's the tips you give to the industrial base to figure this out? Or they have to retain you first?
No, I got to retain my. Well, it's interesting. With almost all of our clients, though, I don't think this is what I would say is the advice doesn't really track for one group or another. I think this whole concept of being bold is really important, right? I mean, we need to try new things. We need to move faster, and you hear that a lot. But I think we've seen that rewarded in many of the tech startups that you see here today, et cetera. I think this whole concept of also moving quickly. I think this is really important, and shortening the cycle of how and when we sort of do things. I think also, though, for these hyperscalers, et cetera, to want to be in there, they need to get to know the customer, frankly. I think that sometimes they have great ideas, and they're idea forward or capability forward. We need to make sure that there's a customer back view on that.
Yeah, that's great. We're about to get the hook here. Everyone was in on one fun thing at Axios. You mentioned you're a U.S. Air Force veteran.
Yes.
You're also an MBA. Tell us the room you used to get that MBA, thanks to the Air Force.
Yes, I did my MBA. This is very interesting, right? On VHS tape. Probably half the room doesn't know what that is anymore. I did it on VHS tape, underground in the high plains of Wyoming, and when I was on nuclear launch alert at
the
night,
bunker,
there was nothing happening. It was very quiet, but I did it all there, and it was a pretty interesting experience. And Auburn was great for any Auburn fans that are out there to be able to let me do that 20 years ago.
The peace and quiet behind a 10-ton blast door.
That's exactly right. You can't find better, other than alarms going off periodically, you can't find a better place to concentrate. So
that's awesome. Ryan, thanks so much for being here. Huge thanks to McKinsey and company for helping make this possible. Stick around. We're going to get Colin back up here.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Nick.